Good morning. Welcome. Great to be here at your company. It's the first time actually I join you with a talk. I hope it's not the last one. I'm very happy to be here presenting what agility is and what it is not. So I hope I put a bit of light on this new methodology, which is not new anymore, actually. It's been around for quite a few years. Who am I? You can hear in my name in Spanish flavor. Yes, I'm Spaniard. I've been around for quite a few years in Germany and went to high school in America. So I've been moving around, but I was born in Spain. And for the last 35 years, my headquarters are in Germany. I'm a business agility consultant, whatever that is. We support companies with any agile consultancy training coaching they might require towards agile methodologies in Western Europe and Latin America. I have a technological background. I'm an engineer. I come from the telecommunications. I was working 22 years for the company Ericsson. And I'm also an international speaker. I'm very much invited to international conferences to give talks like the one I'm giving here, because this gives us also the opportunity to see what others are doing, what's happening out there, what's happening in the IL world. Is there anything new? I also have several certifications and many more. And this is also very, very important to secure we can also advise our customers what is the next most important certification to take. Our company is, as I already mentioned, active in any area you might need. We're also supporting human resources to identify profiles which fit into an agile setup. Right now I'm in France running some consultancy for one of my customers. So anything you might need, we're certified trainers to develop the agile methodologies in your company. Now, there is a bit of confusion. People speak about agile transformation, digital transformation. How is this related to Industry 4.0? If you have a digital transformation, do you also need an agile transformation? So there is quite a few of confusion. We see many companies trying to buy an agile transformation without exactly knowing what they need or what's the problem to be solved. By the way, you can interrupt me anytime with questions if you want to. So what we are facing out there that we have introduced new technology in our companies and organizations. We have put the best connection with 5G, and still we have the working methods from last century and the management mindset from the 18th century. So we cannot move in our technology if we don't move in the way we worked. That's the reason the IR methodologies are required. If you keep one picture of what I'm going to present you today, your head, please, this is the most important one. I will give you flavor of lean, agility, and mention a couple of methods. Lean and agile are pure principles. And then you have methods. Which method you use, I will let you know, is not that important as long as you apply the principles we're going to speak about. It all started 1945 after the Second World War, when Toyota needed to rethink the way they were producing. Things didn't work anymore the way they did before. They couldn't have an inventory, they didn't have resources. So they have to rethink and make a more lean approach. They call it Toyota Production System, beautiful philosophy. All these words, remove waste, quality first, empowerment, stop the line, value oriented, just in time, comes from the Toyota Production System. In the 80s, in MIT, Massachusetts, there was a paper, I think a PhD, where the word lean was mentioned for the first time. So lean is the interpretation the Western countries made from the Toyota Production System. And this is nothing new. It's 80 years old. It's all pure principles. There are 5 principles now in the software development been expanded to 8, but it's all about principles. And if you ask, there was this questionnaire, there was this survey run by Niklas Modig in many companies. They interviewed them and asked them, why did your company implement lean? They got all these answers. That is, there is not one single reason to implement the Lean principles, but quite a few ones. You do nothing wrong if you implement Lean, something like eliminate waste. It's a huge help for efficiency. Now, you might be very efficient, but you are not delivering what the customer needs. Here's where agility comes in. There's a lot of noise around agility. User story points, DevOps, product owners, posits, a lot of posits on the walls. Is this agile? So there is a lot of noise regarding agility because agility is very, very simple. 21 years ago, 17 experts of the software industry got together for a week in Utah, USA, and they defined 4 values and 12 principles, which radically changed the way software is being developed. How do you apply agility in your daily work? Because the agile values from the Agile Manifesto, a piece of poetry, they're beautiful, but sometimes some customers are a bit confused. And then how do we apply this on our day by day? You are agile if you are working incrementally, developing value to the customer continuously. So in small increments of value, adapting to the customer, you collaborate with the customer and you meet the real customer as often as possible to receive direct feedback from your increments of value. The whole thing is done with high-performing teams, which collaborate with each other to bring the best possible solution to the customer, coached by a Scrum Master or facilitator. Why teams? Because a team is more effective and quicker than the sum of the individuals. A team can face complexity with higher speed than any individual expert. That's the reason the basic unit of work in the Agile methodology is our teams. And the whole thing happens in a continuous improvement mindset. That means you are looking for bottlenecks, we're trying to eliminate waste, we remove impediments, we try to learn and learn and learn and innovate. If you are working the way I just described, then you are agile, completely independent of which method you might apply. So this is the way we put it in place. Now, I mentioned Lean and Agile principles, and there are several methods, many more than the ones I have here. Probably the most well-known is Scrum, where we have 5 ceremonies, 3 artifacts, and three roles and 3 artifacts, which together create a choreography by pulling some items, Scrum concept items, prioritized from the product backlog into a team backlog. The teams work focus on one sprint to deliver a product increment in a review, and afterwards have a retrospective to consider how to improve. And this happens all over the time again. So this is, Scrum was actually born before Agility. It was 1995 where the Scrum Guide came out. And this has also radically changed the way we developed software. It all started with the software. Now we're moving out of the software in several other areas. The company, some of the companies I work for now, they develop no software. But it all started 20 years ago with the software development. And I was myself member of a Scrum team for 7 years. So I have tried myself how this works, and I can strongly recommend it. And then you have Kanban. Kanban might sound very simple because have no roles, have no ceremonies defined, has no artifacts. It only had 3 principles. The 3 Kanban principles are very simple. Oh, excuse me, I just see this is in Spanish. Sorry, I took it from the wrong slide set. We visualize the flow. We visualize how the work flows, and we limit work in progress. That means the amount of tickets moving through the flow is limited to a number which allow a speed. If there are too many tickets on the board, nothing moves on. So we secure work in progress limit. Something is finished before something new is started. That's probably the most important principle from Kanban. And then you optimize the flow. You secure the lead time is reduced, the cycle time is reduced. You look for continuous improvement of our flow. So Kanban is about flow, about getting things done effective and efficient. We have spoken so far about teams with 10 people, 12 people, maybe 15 people. But we also have to think one step ahead, what we call agility at scale. We have to consider that the complete company is run in an agile and lean way, what as we call business agility. It's not about having agile teams, it is about having an agile business, agile solutions, agile organizations. And within business agility, you might have a scale framework, you might have less, you might have unfixed. There's several frameworks and approaches how to handle it, up to several thousand people. So right now we have companies like Porsche, which are being set up with an agility at scale, applying a scale framework. I won't go into detail because that will take us too long, only that you know, we have already been thinking the last 10 years one step ahead, how to move to a complete agile organization where human resources, procurement, sales, all areas are working in an agile method. Any questions so far? Okay, everybody happy? Great, so I move on. Now, this is already a bit old. I couldn't find the new one, but I'm sure it's even worse. And what's happening in digital transformations that so many investments are failing. It's also unfortunately happening in agile transformations. So we are investing a huge amount of money to transform our companies, and many are failing. And so you keep hearing agility is failing. And we did a quick analysis. Why? Why are we failing? And we put together in our company 10 reasons why most of our agile transformations are failing. It's not because agile is not good enough. So that's not the problem. I'm going backwards from reason number 10, when agile transformation is treated as a project, when somebody buys the transformation, thinks by buying it 6 months of consultancy and applying a project, we can change the company. It didn't work so far. It's a continuous process. It's not a project. It's a continuous process which never ends. Then we have reason number 9, the big bang transformations, where a huge amount of external consultants run into the company, coming from different consultancy companies, of course, with a lot of internal politics, and try to do a big bang transformation, complete different teams of consultants, try on Monday at 9 o'clock to create an agile company. When we try a revolution and not an evolution, it mostly doesn't work. Reason number 8, why agile transformations might not work. When we outsource the key position of the agile transformation, the most important roles in the company have to be members of the company. You have to have your own people driving this. If you are based on the external consultants and me for important roles like enterprise coaching, for important roles like product management, if this is a consultant with a 1-year contract with his own KPIs, these persons don't drive for the company, they drive for themselves. So we want to have your own people driving an agile transformation and not have people from outside taking care of it, because the people from outside at some point will leave. So the key positions shouldn't be covered by external contractors. Very important aspect. Now, reason number 7, enterprise coach. This picture you see is one very good friend of mine, Fernando. He is the enterprise coach from Europcar in Barcelona. A very, very good enterprise coach. And if you talk to him and you ask him, what's your job? What do you do all day? He secures that the company culture moves along. He also secures a common language for all the company. And he is the coach of the top managers. He takes care of the C-level. Whatever strategies define the company should be considering that we have an agile transformation ongoing. So it's not just about agile coaches for teams. We need somebody to drive the agility in the enterprise. So if you don't have these persons, yes, your agile transformation might fail. Why do we fail when we try to have an agile setup? Reason number 6, hybrid model. There are companies who go a bit agile, like They keep the traditional setup, they have the traditional hierarchy in place, and they have some Scrum teams. So we don't change everything. We don't want to change everything in the company. We're a bit afraid of empowering teams. So we create the Scrum teams, but the rest of the company stays the same. That's what we call hybrid model. And guess what? It doesn't work. You might have a small optimization. You might have a 10% improvement. This could happen. But it's like you are sitting in a Bugatti and you are driving like a Seat Panda. So you have the feeling, yeah, we are moving on, but it could be quicker. Yes, it could, but not with a hybrid model. Then you have to go for business agility. Optimizing one part of the company is a local optimization and not a systemic optimization. And it's a good way to get started. For God's sake, if you start an agile transformation, start small. Start with the local pilots and experiments. But at some point, we have to evolve. We have to go one step beyond and think on business agility. Reason number 5 why we fail in many agile transformation. I've seen it as twice when the company says, oh, we're agile. We don't need to pay all these expensive agile coaches anymore. They're only sitting around. When you think they're sitting around, they are not. They have hidden work. Many of the work done by agile coaches, Scrum Masters, is not obvious. They are running behind impediments. We're having discussions with people. It looks like a non-productive job. It is very productive. And this happened to me twice, reducing agile coaches because we are agile. And guess what? We went backwards. So this is a very important role. You cannot ignore. You have to keep them. And if you think he's just sitting around, look at the trainer from the big Spanish tennis player, Rafael Nadal. He just won in France last week. If you observe this person sitting around during the matches, he doesn't speak much. But maybe this one sentence he says is the right one. So it's not about quantity of work when it comes to agile coaches, and you need them even if you are already agile. Reason number 4 why we might fail with an agile transformation when the company looks agile, but it's not. You might go into companies once upon a time before COVID when we saw these beautiful walls full of posits, and there are even more pictures of beautiful rooms full of posits. And we think, oh, what a beautiful agile setup. And there may be behind the wall is a complete hierarchical system with command and control and zero empowerment to the teams. The company looks agile, but it's not. They're just doing agile. So this unfortunately happens a lot. We observe it in many companies. And then they wonder things are not changing. So always think holistic and be critical when you are running an agile transformation. Now, reason number 3, why we might fail. When we introduce some sort of framework without understanding the problem we're trying to solve, and this picture done by my colleague Michael is beautiful because it explains what I face every second day when I'm at the customer. And you observe that management has some expectations which might not be related to the problem we have because the problem is not clear. And we buy some framework transformation trying to solve a problem we haven't identified yet. So we have companies introducing SAFe and Scale framework, of course, looks fantastic and management expects a huge solution and then nothing happens because we didn't identify the problem. So please keep this in mind if you ever say, okay, we're going to introduce Scrum, we're going to introduce Kanban, we're going to introduce Scale framework. Think twice, what is the problem you are trying to solve? So it is like we have forks, we have knives, we have spoons, and which one is the best? Depends on the problem you're trying to solve. If you want to eat a soup, don't buy knives. You might need spoons. So this is the approach to follow when introducing some agile framework. Number 2 reason why we fail constantly introducing agility is the management mindset. The first ones we need on board is management. We desperately need to secure they accept the role of leadership. We move from traditional management to leadership. We need coaches, we need drivers, We don't need somebody telling the people what to do, because the people are empowered to take their own decisions. I mean, we don't have coding monkeys, we have real brains in the company. Let's use them. So this is a difficult situation, and that is something we consultants work very hard on to secure we have the right mindset in place. And this was even documented at the Harvard Business Review. In the Harvard Business Review, they mentioned the agile innovation has already revolutionized the software industry and is moving on to any area outside IT. So at this point, the impediment is not the need for a better methodologies. If somebody asks, is there something better than Scrum? And I say, no, we don't need it. There's empirical evidence already of the significant benefits that agility can work even outside IT. So that's not the problem that the Scrum or Kanban or SAFe is not good enough. We already have this evidence. We have so many thousands of companies applying amazing agile principles. The problem we're facing mostly it is the behavior of executives. This mindset change from management to leadership, it's sometimes tough. That is our challenge. And now there's, from our point of view, of course, a number one reason, why agile transformation might fail if you ignore the culture. The culture of the company combined with the local country culture. If you ignore it, as Peter Drucker says, he said, culture is strategy for breakfast, and we have modified and we say culture is everything for breakfast. You might run, whatever you try to do in your company, you are gonna run against the culture. So you have to observe it, you have to sense it, you have to understand the culture. That's probably the biggest challenge for us external consultants, to observe the culture of the company combined with the local culture of the country you are, geographical culture. I was working 22 years for a Swedish company in Germany. So there was a combination of two cultures, and I am a Spaniard, which is a third culture. So the whole thing together has to be observed, sense, and then try out what can we do to modify or to influence the culture, but don't run against it, because it's everything for breakfast. There is a sitcom in Spain in the 90s, very interesting one. It was called Camera Café. Very funny, 30 minutes sketch where there's only one single camera in this sitcom, and it is in the coffee machine of the company. So that whenever the people go to pick up a coffee, they're in front of the machine talking, just talking and bitching around about each other and fall in love with each other and competing with each other. So everything that happens in an office, it's recorded in this comedy by this one camera in the coffee machine. Now, imagine you put a camera in your coffee machine in your company. What could this camera observe? That is the culture of your company. That is the one you have to keep in mind when we introduce change. And yes, obviously, sometimes you feel this way when you're trying to change. You're in front of the culture. And as John Sheldon said, attempting to change the organization culture, it always fails. The behavior is a product of the system you have. So we have to influence the system, and then the behavior will change. So that is the way we have to think. When we say changing the system, we might have the feeling we're in front of a wall. Say, oh my God, changing the system. Yeah, what do we do when we're in front of a wall? Leonard Cohen has a beautiful song that says, when you're in front of a wall, look for the holes, because there's where the sun comes through. So look for a hole, in the wall, and try to start there, where the weak points of the system we can start influencing. Whatever you do, you have to do something, because what got us here will not get us there. It doesn't mean we have been working in a wrong way and we're going to work now in a right way. It's not black and white. We have done great things were traditional working methods. We have put a man on the moon in the 60s with code written on paper. So traditional working waterfall methods have run fantastic projects in the last century, which are out there in the market. The problem is it has radically changed the degree of complexity and velocity we have out there. With the actual complexity and velocity the market is facing, the way we were working will not get us farther anymore. We have also to modify our methods. Thank you very much for listening to this teaser on agile methodologies and pitfalls. It was just a rough overview that you get a feeling when you hear agile methodologies, what are you facing? And when you hear they are failing, you know why. And now I'm open for any questions you might have regarding everything I presented to you or things I didn't present, but you might want to know. Thank you very much for listening. Welcome for your questions.